I still remember that night clearly. A light drizzle was falling from the gray sky, soaking the narrow streets of the small town where I lived, making everything feel quieter than usual. This town was never busy, but that night it felt dead. Not just because of the weather. There was something else. Something I still can't fully explain. I lived alone in a small house on the edge of town. My nearest neighbor was 2 houses away, and beyond that was a thick forest that seemed to swallow any sound that dared to pass through it. I rented the house for cheap, and when I first saw it, it felt like the perfect place for a quiet life. But that peace quickly turned into something suffocating. It all started changing about 2 weeks before. I began noticing small things. The porch light I always turned off before leaving would be on when I got home. The wind chime in the backyard would ring softly, even on completely still nights. Then came the footsteps on the roof, slow, deliberate, as if someone was just standing there, waiting. At first I tried to dismiss it. My rational mind held on tight. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it was a rat. Faulty wiring, perhaps. But as the nights went on, the excuses wore thin. One night, after I had just turned off the lights in the living room and was getting ready for bed, I heard a tap on the back window. Not a knock. It didn't sound like a hand. It was sharp, slow, and rhythmic, like claws. Like someone wanted me to know they were there. Waiting. I froze. I didn't move. I barely breathed. I waited for the tapping to stop, but instead, it got louder. Faster. Until I jumped from my bed and rushed to the kitchen to grab a flashlight. When I pointed the beam at the back window, there was nothing there. But the marks were. 3 long, thin scratches across the glass. Not deep, but clear enough to see in the morning. I took a picture, but for some reason the file was corrupted. Every time I tried to open it, all I saw was black. From that night on, I knew someone, or something, was watching me. Not every night, but often enough that I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow. I stopped turning on the porch light. I shut all the curtains. I began writing everything down in a little notebook. Then 3 nights ago things escalated. The power went out around 11. No storm. No warning from the electric company. Just sudden darkness. I waited a few minutes hoping it would come back. It didn't. I grabbed my flashlight and began lighting a few candles I kept in the kitchen drawer. I was in the living room trying to send a message on my phone, which had lost signal, when I heard the back door. It didn't knock. It opened, slowly, with a long creak like it was trying to be heard. I stood still. I couldn't move. Then I heard footsteps on the kitchen floor. Heavy, dragging, like someone was shuffling their feet. My flashlight trembled in my hand. One of the candles near me flickered and died even though there was no draft. I don't know how I had the courage, but I crept toward the kitchen, grabbing the small knife from the counter. There was no one there. The back door was wide open and the cold air flowed in like a warning. But no prints. No sounds. Just silence. A silence so dense, it pressed against my skin. I closed the door and locked it, but as I turned around, I heard breathing. Right behind me. I can't explain it. No one was there, but I felt them. The smell of metal, like old blood, filled my nose. And the breathing, harsh, like someone standing too close. I screamed and ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and sat in the corner of the room until morning. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. When the sun came up, the power returned. My phone lit up, but it all still felt wrong. Like the nightmare hadn't ended. The next day I went into town. I didn't know who to talk to, but I ended up at the small general store near the post office. I started talking to the man behind the counter. He just looked at me for a while before finally saying, "You live in that house, huh?" I nodded slowly. He didn't say much more. Just one last sentence that made my blood run cold. Someone else used to live there. Said the same things. Then one night, he vanished. Only thing they found was blood in the living room. I tried to laugh it off. Small town rumors. But when I got home and opened my front door, I saw something that made my heart stop. Footprints. Wet, muddy prints on the living room floor. But the smell, metallic. The same as that night. And each step pointed straight to my bedroom. I knew I wasn't going to survive the night. But somehow, I did. I don't know why. I don't know who, or what, came into that house. But I haven't stayed there since. I left. Rented a motel miles away from town. I haven't been back. But sometimes when the night is quiet and the rain begins to fall, I still hear that breathing. Close. Too close. Eldridge was the kind of place where not much ever happened. A sleepy town tucked between endless fields, where everyone knew each other's dogs by name. But there was always something strange about the old Turner house sitting right across from me. It wasn't just the peeling paint or the yard overgrown with weeds. It was the way it seemed forgotten even when people were living there. The Turners moved in about 6 months ago. A family of 4. They kept to themselves, polite but distant. The parents were rarely seen during the day, and the 2 kids, a boy and a girl, would sometimes stare out the attic window long after midnight, faces barely visible through the curtains. I told myself they were just private people. Maybe they had their reasons. But about 2 weeks ago, I noticed something odd. Their mailbox started piling up with letters. Packages sat untouched on their porch, even as rain soaked the boxes into mush. Their curtains remained drawn tight, day and night. I hadn't seen a light turn on in days. At first I thought they were away, maybe visiting family. But something felt wrong. One evening while taking out my trash, I caught sight of the back door of their house swinging slowly in the wind. It wasn't just ajar, it was wide open. No lights, no sound, just the dark, gaping mouth of an empty house. I don't know why, but I crossed the street. The porch creaked under my weight. I called out a hesitant, "Hello?" But only the distant croak of frogs answered me. My heart was thudding in my ears as I stepped inside. The air was stale, damp, and heavy with the unmistakable smell of rotting food. The living room was trashed. Furniture overturned, picture frames shattered on the floor. The coffee table was split down the middle as if something heavy had crashed into it. I hesitated at the bottom of the staircase. Dirty footprints, larger than any of theirs, led up to the second floor. Some prints were smeared like someone had been dragged. A rational voice in my head screamed for me to get out, to call someone. But curiosity, or something deeper, something darker, pushed me forward. The hallway upstairs was worse. Doors were thrown open, clothes ripped from closets and scattered across the floor. The smell was stronger here, almost chemical, metallic. Blood. I couldn't be sure. I found the boys' room first. The bed was stripped bare, mattress halfway off the frame. Toys lay broken and discarded. In the center of the room, someone had scratched deep gouges into the wooden floor, forming strange, looping symbols that made my stomach twist. Next was the parents' bedroom. Empty. Sheets torn. Dresser drawers yanked out and dumped. But something caught my eye. A single Polaroid picture, half-burned, lying atop the nightstand. It showed the family, all smiling stiffly, but someone else was behind them. A tall, dark figure standing at the very edge of the frame, almost hidden by the shadows. I don't know how I missed it before, but now I could see it clearly. The figure's face was wrong, blurred, distorted, like an image refusing to be captured. The last room was the attic. The door was slightly ajar, just enough to see the first few steps leading up into darkness. I don't remember deciding to climb. My feet just moved, one after another, drawn upward by a force I couldn't explain. The attic smelled different. Colder. Older. As if whatever was up there didn't belong to this time or place. The beam from my flashlight flickered as I pushed the door fully open. The attic was empty, except for a single old mirror propped against the far wall. And in the mirror I saw them. The Turner family. They were standing there, motionless, staring directly at me. But when I spun around, the attic was empty. Only their reflections remained, pressed against the inside of the glass as if desperate to escape. I stumbled backward, heart hammering, and the attic door slammed shut behind me with a deafening crack. For a moment I thought I'd be trapped. I pounded against the door, screaming, but the house just seemed to swallow the sound whole. The mirror began to fog and the figures started moving, jerking, twitching as if puppeteered by invisible strings. One by one they lifted their hands and pressed them against the inside of the glass. I could see the horror in their eyes, pleading, begging. And then something else appeared behind them. The same dark figure from the photograph. Taller now, its arms impossibly long, its fingers sharp and bone-white. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle as it slowly placed a hand on each of their shoulders. The Turners' faces twisted in silent screams, and then in an instant they were gone. The mirror cracked, a thin hairline fracture splitting right down the center. The attic door burst open behind me and I ran. I didn't stop until I was back across the street, safe inside my own house, slamming and locking the door behind me. I called the sheriff the next morning. They sent a couple of deputies to investigate, but when they came back, they said the house was empty. Nothing unusual. No signs of struggle. They chalked it up to a domestic dispute and filed a missing persons report. But the house remained abandoned. Weeks passed. People stopped talking about the Turners. The mail was collected. Their belongings were eventually auctioned off. But sometimes, when the fog rolls in heavy over the fields, I swear I can see faint figures standing at the attic window. Watching. Waiting. And when I pass by, the cracked mirror still catches the light, flashing a quick, distorted glimpse of 4 faces trapped inside. I don't even know why I'm writing this down. Maybe it's just to make sense of it. Maybe part of me still hopes it was all in my head. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And I know I'll never step foot in that house again. So, here's what happened. I bought the house in late fall. It was cheap, like way too cheap for what it was. 2 stories, old wood floors, a fireplace, big kitchen, tiny backyard. A little worn down, sure, but nothing major. The real estate agent said it had just sat too long on the market and people were weirded out by how isolated it felt. But I work from home and I like peace and quiet. Sounded perfect. The first week was fine. A little creaky, yeah, but it's an old house. The heater was loud and the pipes knocked at night. Whatever. Normal old house stuff. Then things got weird. It started with the hallway light. Every night around 2 or 3 a.m., it would flick on by itself. Not just flicker, like fully click on. I thought it was a wiring issue, so I got an electrician. He checked the whole thing out and said everything was fine. No shorts, no crossed wires. Nothing. So I started turning the breaker off at night. Problem solved, right? Nope. One night I woke up to that same damn light glowing down the hallway, even though I turned the breaker off completely. I remember just standing there, staring at it, totally still. My mouth went dry. My chest got tight. I knew deep down that something was wrong. But I didn't go check. I couldn't. I told myself maybe I just forgot to flip the breaker. Maybe it was a leftover charge or something. Dumb excuses, I know. But I wasn't ready to admit something else might be going on. Then I started hearing things. It wasn't loud. Just little sounds, like faint footsteps upstairs when I was downstairs. Or breathing that wasn't mine when I was in bed. And always at night. Sometimes I'd be halfway asleep and hear my name whispered, super soft, from the end of the hallway. One night I actually called out, "Hello?" into the darkness. And for a second, I swear to God, something answered. I didn't catch what it said. It was just a low mumble. But it wasn't me. And it wasn't the wind. It sounded like it was standing right there just outside my bedroom door. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up with a flashlight and a baseball bat like an idiot, heart pounding the whole time. But the worst part wasn't the sounds. It was the feeling. There were moments when I'd be sitting in the living room or brushing my teeth, and I'd suddenly get this wave of dread. Like the air got thick. Like someone was watching me from the next room. My skin would crawl and my stomach would drop like I was on a roller coaster. Felt wrong. That's the only word I have for it. Just wrong. Then came the mirror thing. I had this old mirror in the upstairs hallway, came with the house. It had a weird antique frame and the glass was a little warped. One night I was walking past it, half asleep, and I saw something move in the reflection. But when I turned around, the hallway behind me was empty. At first, I figured it was just my own reflection, lagging or something. But it happened again. And again. Always when I wasn't looking directly at it. Always a split second after I passed. Eventually, I covered the mirror with a towel. That night, the towel was on the floor the next morning. I didn't touch it. And then came the door. It was a door to the basement. I didn't use it. Too dark, smelled weird, whatever. I kept it locked. But one morning I came downstairs and it was open. Just wide open. I froze. I hadn't unlocked it. I hadn't even been near it in days. And when I looked inside, I saw footprints on the dusty stairs. Bare footprints. Small. Like a child's. I don't have kids. I don't even have friends with kids. That was it for me. I packed a bag and left that day. I didn't even sleep there one more night. I stayed at a friend's place and started looking for someone to sublet. Before I left for good, I went back during the day to grab a few more boxes. The house felt different in the daylight. Less creepy. Almost normal. But as I was locking the front door for the last time, I heard it, clear as day, from upstairs. Laughter. Childlike. Soft. Playful. And then, footsteps. Running across the floor above me. I didn't go check. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove, and I haven't been back since. I don't know what's in that house. I don't know if it's a ghost or a demon or just the house itself. But I know it didn't want me there. And I'm never ever going back.